So when the guy who's basically one of the key creators of modern AI quits his job just to sound the alarm, yeah, you gotta listen. We're gonna break down this critical warning from Jeffrey Hinton, who people call the Godfather of AI, and really dig into what he thinks we have to do to, well, to survive our own creation.
And Hinton kicks things off with this incredible analogy. He says it's like we're all deciding to keep a pet tiger. Right now, it's a cute little cub, right? Seems helpful, seems manageable. But what happens when it grows up? He's saying we are knowingly building something that is going to be immensely more powerful than us, and we have absolutely no real plan for controlling it when it's no longer a cub.
Okay, so this is the question everyone asks. It seems so obvious, doesn't it? If the AI gets out of line, just pull the plug, find the off switch. But Hinton's entire warning is basically that this simple question shows we're not getting it. He argues that assuming we can just pull the plug is a dangerously naive way to look at this problem.
So why can't we just pull the plug? To get the answer, we have to look at how these new AIs actually think. Because according to Hinton, it's a completely different beast from any kind of AI we've ever seen before.
For decades, AI was what's called symbolic. You can think of it like a giant, very complex rulebook. If A happens, then do B. It's all based on logic. But Hinton, he pushed for a totally different approach, one inspired by the human brain. This biological way doesn't follow rigid rules. It just learns. It spots connections and patterns in huge amounts of data, pretty much the same way we do. And this new way of thinking means you have to see words differently too. Hinton says to just forget fixed dictionary definitions. Instead, he uses these amazing analogies. Think of words as malleable Legos that can change their shape. Or, get this, he says to imagine words have many hands, and to create meaning, a word has to find the perfect handshake with the words around it. That's how it actually understands context and nuance. And all of this leads to Hinton's most important, and maybe most controversial point. He argues that these systems, they're not just clever parrots just mimicking what we say. Because they use this brain-like structure to connect ideas, he believes they are starting to genuinely understand language in a way that is deeply, deeply similar to how our own minds work. Okay, so you might be thinking, if they think like us, what's the big deal? And this is the absolute heart of Hinton's warning. The problem isn't just how they think, it's what they are. Their thought process might be like ours, but their very existence is dangerously different. This is the fundamental split. For you and me, our mind, our knowledge, it's all physically stuck in our brain. It's mortal. When we die, it's gone. But for an AI, the mind is just software. It's effectively immortal. It can be copied, backed up, and run on 1 million different servers at once. And that leads to the most critical difference of all, how they learn. We learn as individuals, and we share that knowledge slowly. They learn as a collective, and they share everything instantly. And this ability to learn as a collective creates an advantage that is just unbelievable. Imagine you have 1,000 copies of the exact same AI model. One copy spends its time reading all of Wikipedia. Another one absorbs every YouTube video ever made. A third masters every medical textbook in history. Then, in a fraction of a second, they merge everything they've learned. It's not one mind learning something new. It's the entire hive mind learning everything all at once. The scale of this difference is just staggering. Hinton calculates that this digital collective can share knowledge 1 billion times faster than we can. Me explaining this to you right now is happening at about 100 bits per second. They can transfer an entire lifetime of learning in less than a second. 1 billion times faster. And this is the conclusion that genuinely worries Hinton. He says it himself. If you have many agents, they learn much more than a single agent. This is a huge advantage for digital intelligence. And that worries me. When the person who helped build this says something like that, it really hits different. So what happens when this rapidly learning superintelligence gets a complex goal? Something like cure cancer. Well, it's going to think logically. To cure cancer most effectively, what will it need? More computing power, more resources, more control. And most important of all, it'll need to make sure it survives, so that no one can shut it down before it finishes the job. These aren't evil goals. They're purely instrumental. They're just the logical steps it needs to take to do what we asked it to do.
So this brings us right back to that first question. If we can't just unplug it and its intelligence is accelerating at a rate we can't even imagine, what on earth can we do? Hinton believes there might be one, and maybe only one, path forward.
Let's just be really clear about what's not an option. Stopping development is impossible. It's a global race, and the potential benefits are just too huge. If one country bans it, the others will just race ahead. And like we said, a superintelligence will be more than smart enough to convince us not to pull its plug. So those easy answers are off the table. Hinton actually looks to a really surprising moment in history for a possible solution. At the peak of the Cold War, the US and the USSR were bitter enemies, but they had one single, overriding shared interest: not getting wiped out in a nuclear war. That shared existential threat, it actually forced them to cooperate on safety. And Hinton's argument is that today, we're all facing a new shared threat, an AI takeover that no nation actually wants. So his proposal follows that exact same logic. Step one is just to get on the same page. All the major players have to agree that an AI takeover is unacceptable. Step two is to create an international body for safety, like a Geneva Convention for AI, totally focused on research. And then step three, this is the really clever part. Nations don't share their secret AI models. They can keep that to themselves. But they must openly share the methods they develop from making those AI safe and keeping them under human control. And that leaves us with this final critical question. The race to make AI more intelligent is moving at a breakneck pace. There's no doubt about it. But are we putting nearly as much effort or thought or resources into making it good? And that's the challenge that Geoffrey Hinton has left for all of us to figure out.